What is up, guys? Bobgar here, and we're looking at a 10-ticket deck today. 10-ticket Modern Saheeli Sundial. So this is a deck that both contains the Saheeli Rai Felidar Guardian combo and also a bunch of Sundial of the Infinite Synergy cards and some Sundial of the Infinites, as we'll see in a second. Looking at the Namesake cards. So yeah, Saheeli is mostly in there for the Felidar Guardian combo. You get her out, you get Felidar Guardian out. Felidar Guardian can blink her. She can minus to create a copy token of Felidar Guardian. You can use that token to blink her. So on and so on until you have infinite Felidar Guardians with haste on the battlefield, and then they can all attack in and do as much damage as you would like. So that is kind of combo number one, and that's our win condition. And Sundial of the Infinite, it's kind of a do nothing 2-drop, but it has a lot of interesting interactions just all over the place. And one of those interesting interactions is with the Namesake card, Saheeli Rai. If you use Saheeli Rai's -2 ability, and then go to your end step with that token that you've created, you can end the turn before that token is removed, and then you will have that token permanently. So it makes your -2 ability copy target creature you control, which is pretty good, and that's one of the many synergies with it. And then, like I just mentioned, this combo, so Saheeli combos with Felidar Guardian to make infinite Felidar Guardians. And now let's get into some of the Sundial synergies. So we talked about the Saheeli Rai one. These are the other 4 cards in the deck that Sundial of the Infinite synergizes with. Probably the most important one is Flickerwisp. Flickerwisp, you can get rid of any permanent on your opponent's side of the board. Or, I mean, you can get rid of your own too. Sometimes it's worth it just to blink your own stuff, but you're not really going to want to use Sundial for that. But if you get rid of one of your opponent's permanents, you go to your end step. You put the ability of Flickerwisp on the stack, where when it resolves, they'll get their thing back, and then you force end the turn, they will never get their thing back. So it basically just removes a permanent from the game. Basically a Vindicate that exiles. Pretty good. You need 4 mana to do it, obviously, so it's a little slow because you need to cast Flickerwisp and then still have a mana up to activate Sundial, but pretty nifty. Mulldrifter is in the deck, and it's not only good with Sundial, which lets you cast it. You can cast it for Evoke and then end the turn for 4 instead of having to pay the full 5. But it's really only a 1 mana cost reduction, so it's not super important. It also just works really well with Flickerwisp and some of the other blink effects that we will see in the deck, like Felidar Guardian too. Helps us draw to the pieces we need for our combo, or threats when we need them, or synergy pieces when we need them. Glorious End, I think, is one of the absolute coolest cards in this deck. I'm not convinced it's good enough to really be in the deck, but it was too cool to not put in. It lets you end your opponent's turn at instant speed, much like Sundial of the Infinite itself, but on your next end step, you lose the game. So the reason this is good in this deck is you can end your opponent's turn at instant speed, often like while they're casting a spell, and you can get not only a end their turn out of it, you can get like basically a free counter spell out of it, or get them to put themselves in a bad position, things like that, like tap all their creatures to attack, and then you'll have a free attack in. But in addition to that, you will not actually lose the game at your next end step as long as you have Sundial of the Infinite in play, because you can just end the turn in response to this trigger going on the stack. So basically that goes away forever. So pretty cool. Basically it ends up being a time stop for 4 mana. I mean, you can do it at 3 mana, but you have to pay that extra mana the next turn to use Sundial of the Infinite to get around it. And it blows people out a lot just because they don't expect it. I like it a lot. Depending on what you're trying to do, you can even just use it to like counter people cracking fetch lands, which you can also use Sundial to do if they try to crack a fetch land on your turn. Just end the turn in response to them trying to crack a fetch land. And then Mistmetal Witch. This is one of the slowest ones, but for 4 mana, you exile a creature till the end of the turn, and exactly like Flickerwisp, when that creature tries to come back into play, you can end the turn. So basically, it gives you a 5 mana exile target creature. A little bit slow, but worth it when it's worth it, and obviously she can just blink your own stuff for value when you don't have anything else to do. And then there's kind of an additional blink package because we have so many good blink targets. Thraben, Inspector, and Wall of Omens are dual purpose. They both have these great come into play abilities that help us keep drawing cards and finding our combo and our synergy pieces. And then they also are great blockers. Then we also run 4 Cloud Shift, which is good for blinking various pieces to get value off them, like Mulldrifter. Mulldrifter, for if you have 4 mana, you can evoke a Mulldrifter, which will draw you 2 cards, and you blink it with Cloud Shift. You get 2 more cards, so you get 4 cards total, and you get to keep the 2/2 around, which is super sick. And it's also good with the thing we're going to look at next, which is we have one more win condition in the deck, and it is a Chroma Angel of Fury. We're in red anyway, so it doesn't hurt to slip this guy in. And a 6/6 pro blue and white is pretty powerful. Flying, trample, has fire breath. You play this down as a morph, and then you use any of those blink effects we've looked at already to blink it, and suddenly you have a 6/6 flyer for very cheap. A lot of times this can just take over games if your opponent is not prepared for it, especially if their main removal color is white and they're relying on Path to Exiles. They usually, once this comes down, don't have a chance. And then 3 Sleight of Hands. This is just to help us find our combo and synergy pieces and things. It smooths out our draw a little bit, just nice to have. And that's basically the deck. Oh, I need to talk about lands. Yes. The land base is super janky because we're a 3-color deck and we are a budget deck. And that means we have to be a little janky. 1 mountain, 4 islands, and 7 plains. Plains are by far our most important land, but we definitely really want to get an island too, or a blue source. Red really is not as used, mostly Saheeli. And after that, we run 4 Aether Hub, because a lot of times we just need mana for a turn. Like we have 1 card that's blue, even though every card's white, but we happen not to draw our blue. Or 1 card that's red, even though we have blue and white fine. So I found Aether Hub fixed us enough to get us over that hump. So it ended up being a pretty good card to stick in. 3 Battlefield Forge. Again, mostly fixing for red. I mean, used for white a lot too. But yeah, just a relatively good dual land. Unfortunately, it does hurt us a little bit, and we're already a little weak to aggro, but put that in there. And then Shivan Reef in blue-red. These are basically some of the cheapest dual lands that come into play untapped that we can get. And they work pretty well. Our mana doesn't usually end up being too screwy, but occasionally it does get a little rough. Alright, and then the sideboard. We are running 2 Ghost Quarters against things like Tron. We can destroy lands with our Flicker Wisp interaction eventually, and it can be very strong against something like Tron, but it's a little slow. A lot of times we're going to want the Ghost Quarter early on to make sure they don't get their combo off right away. 3 Tormod Script against various graveyard decks. 3 Negate against various, especially combo decks, like Living End Negate is pretty sweet. Probably against big mana decks like Tron too, keep them off their Ujins and their Karns. 2 Oblivion Rings, kind of a catch-all, works pretty well because we can blink it if we really need to exile something else. And then 2 Evoke creatures, which are a little weird. I'm not super convinced Whispermare is worth it, but it's a 1/3 flyer for 3. When it comes into play, you can destroy an enchantment. You can pay 1 mana just to destroy an enchantment, which would sometimes be useful. And we just have so many ways to blink it. And also, if we have Sundial out, we can cast it and then end the turn after casting it. So it really only saves us a mana, but still saves us a mana, which is pretty nice. Sometimes relevant. More often, it's more in there because of the blink. Ingot Chewer is more likely for us to use Sundial to end the turn right after evoking, just because it costs 5 mana otherwise. But a 3/3 for 1 is a pretty big deal if we want to do that. And then, sometimes you just evoke it to get rid of an artifact that you really need to get rid of. So that's that. And then let's look at the whole deck. So obviously the 2 namesake cards over there on the left. $13.50 online, a little more than I like to have these usually be, but I think that's mostly the land base. Being a 3-color deck really hurts things a lot. I think I don't have the lands on this slide, but I think if you looked at it right here, this is actually quite a bit less than $10, not including the lands. And then 77 in paper. There are some slightly expensive cards. Saheeli Rai is still not cheap. I mean, she's not super expensive, but she's $4 a piece. Same with Sleight of Hand. So yeah, that's just the way it is. I did not make a matchup slide for this. I think all of the matchups are X's. I don't think there's too many decks we're actually likely to win against, but I just think the deck is cool, fun. I really like some of the interactions. Interesting matches happen sometimes. So I figured it'd be fun to play through some matches. And I did want to bring up one more slide, which is just a viewer request update. So I'm highlighting the one that I'm doing this week, which is Ned Stark's dad suggested I do a Sundial the Infinite deck. We did Control a few weeks ago. We did a blue-white Control deck. We did a Core Tribal, and then as you can tell, I have more requests than I'm likely to get through anytime soon, but don't feel shy if there are more requests you'd like to see. Obviously also if there's any suggestions you guys have about my content and how I do it and my presentation and all that, definitely let me know. And I do take, in addition to $10 deck requests, I do just take other random requests, like you can see on the right over there. I guess that's it. That's the deck for the week. I'm going to jump into some games. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, Bobgar here. I just really wanted to quickly say, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you enjoy my content in general and would like to see more of it, subscribe. I'll be coming out with more content in the future. And please leave me comments and let me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, both in terms of production and in terms of my play and my deck building and all that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.